everybody, and welcome back to the channel. As promised from the haul video, we are talking the Nintendo Switch 2, the Direct, kind of all the information we have right now about it, which is ever changing. So probably by the time I finish doing this video editing and getting it up on YouTube, something new will happen. Like they'll probably announce the release date, and just for clarity I am recording this on Sunday, April the 13th, and it should go live Monday, maybe Tuesday, but I'm pretty sure it's going to go live Monday the 14th. And if anything happens in between then, I'll probably do one of my walk and talk shorts. Those have been actually kind of popular. I don't know if they're popular because I started them in Japan, or if you guys just like shorter form content of quick bites of news and anything like that. But it gets the view count up, so generates traffic for the channel. So I definitely appreciate you guys taking a couple minutes out of your day to watch those shorts. Definitely appreciate it. But on to the Switch 2. And well, before the Switch 2, you might notice over my shoulder right here, new display. That I got. I got the. If you watch the haul video, I got. Oh damn, I'm bad at this. The Super Famicom and the Nintendo system in my recent trip to Japan. So I kind of just did a fun redesign of that middle cabinet. It's the first four Nintendo consoles: the Famicom, Super Famicom, N64, and you can't see it, but it's at the bottom, the GameCube. Just kind of a cool display. Since I have extras of the, well, I don't have an extra Famicom, but I never had the Famicom hooked up to play anyways. But yeah, since I had extras of the Super Famicom, which is my OG Super Nintendo, I've got 2 N64s and 3 GameCubes. That was never intentional. I decided to just do like a little display to show them off, kind of thing like that. Just kind of like a museum piece for Nintendo. As you can see, over my left shoulder, my original Super Nintendo, and where the old black N64 used to be, I'm probably going to put one of my GameCubes there. Not sure. But yeah, just kind of a cool display piece. And the WWE belts are still here. They're just with all my WWE stuff now. They're more classified with where they should be. And someone had mentioned in one of my videos how cool all my stuff is, and I was planning on doing it. So when I finish this whole revamp of the game room, I'm going to do another room tour. So look forward to that coming up station. But no, Switch 2. We're 2 minutes and 45 seconds in. Let's talk about what we came here to talk about. So I was in Japan when the Direct hit, so it wasn't early morning for me. It was 10 o'clock at night. I was in Osaka at the time, and it was a long day of a lot of walking. I clocked it. I charted it. I did well over 130 miles of walking in that 8-day time span in Japan. So I was kind of tired. I was like, man, part of me wanted them to announce like pre-orders are live kind of thing. But also part of me was like, I don't know how this is going to work from Japan, if I'm going to be able to actually place an order in the U.S. from Japan. But also I was so tired. I was like, come on, give it another day. When they announced the 9th, I was like, sweet, I get back the 8th. It'll be great. And then, of course, the tariffs got announced, and that got delayed. We're going to talk more about the tariffs later on in this video. But the $400 and $450 price tags for either the base system or the system with Mario Kart, that was about $50 more than I was expecting. I'm sorry, I wrote that down wrong. I said $400 and $450. $450 and $499. Those are the prices of the system. I don't know why I wrote in my script, because what I was expecting was $399. And if there was a pack-in, though, I didn't really expect a pack-in because Nintendo has not done a pack-in since the Wii U. The Switch didn't get a pack-in initially, so I didn't think they'd do a pack-in with the Switch 2, but so $450 and $499 for the systems. I was expecting $399 for the base model, and if they did a pack-in, $450 for that. I'm not too upset about it, especially after Digital Foundry has come out and kind of done a video on it saying, it's priced kind of right for what you're getting. So again, the $50 for me, like once you hit a certain price point, like paying $400 for something and then, it's $50 more, at that point, I'm just kind of like, I'm shrugging. I know $50 is not anything to sneeze at or anything like that, but once you're paying $400 for something, just an extra $50, it doesn't affect me, especially for something I've been anticipating for a while now. It doesn't affect me that bad. Now, if it was like an extra $100, if we went from $399 to $499 for just the base, then I'd be like, oh, that's not something to sneeze at. But it's still, the 450 is still cheaper than, the Xbox Series X when it came out, the PS5 when it came out. And I know some people were like, well, yada, yada, yada. They're more powerful systems. And yes, they are. But at the same time, they don't do what the Switch 2 does. And the Switch 2 does a lot. So it's kind of one of those give or take kind of things like that. And if you think it's too expensive, you're not wrong. If you think it's priced right, you're not wrong. I mean, we are in a capitalist system and the consumers drive the price. So if this is too much money, kind of like the 3DS was, Nintendo probably will do a price cut if sales stagger. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. Just judging by the European pre-orders, where it sold out almost instantly, I don't think this is going to be a flop. I think the initial sales are going to be pretty big for Nintendo. Will it reach Switch 1 levels of sales? Probably not. But also the Switch one was definitely helped out by COVID and things like that. And it's a longer lifespan than most modern systems these days. But I don't think the 450 and 499 price tags are going to scare anyone off. Maybe scare a few people off. But given what pre-orders have done in Europe, like I said, I think it's going to sell out. So I wouldn't look for a price cut for, oh man, at least 2 Christmases. At least. Probably longer, but at least 2 Christmases. So we'll get this upcoming Christmas, 2025, 2026. It will probably still be the same price. Maybe get a bonus game thrown in there from retailers. But I don't see it dropping below 400 anytime soon. So we're probably going to be stuck with that price. So you just need to determine if you're willing to pay that price. If you trade in your old Switch and some games, you can knock that down a little bit. I'm sure GameStop will be doing some sort of deal. I will not be trading in my old Switch. I'm going to keep it, one, because I've got kids. They can play that. I play the Switch too, and vice versa. We can all play. But also, I just don't see the need to do that. I own every Nintendo system but the Virtual Boy. Still haven't got my hands on one of those. So I'm just going to keep it in my collection like my Wii, my Wii U. Though I do play the Wii U every once in a while. My 3DS and so on. But yeah, you do have those options to trade it in to try to reduce the price and, just make trade-ins towards the system. So I'm sure GameStop's going to give you like a bonus 20% on your trade or something like that to mitigate that price. Switch 2 is basically fully backwards compatible. I was just watching RGB85, and he said it's something like 10,000 games, which again, a lot of that's shovelware. That's just on the eShop, but pretty much just about everything from Nintendo but Labo, I think, converts over to the Switch 2. So there you go. And speaking of Labo, that's been discontinued and like clearanced here in the US. When I was at the Nintendo store in Osaka, they're still selling it at full price. So I guess Labo is a little bit more popular in Japan than it is in the US. But I found that hilarious. I was like, Labo, let me see how much this is. And I was like, oh, that's still MSRP retail price. Oh, okay. But sidetracking a little bit. So that's kind of my thought on the price. More than what I expected, because I think in my prediction video I said $399. I said if we're lucky $350. Obviously that wasn't even close. But yeah, I think the good money was on $399, and it's up $50. Again, nothing to sneeze at, but it doesn't mitigate me from getting one. When they didn't announce the price, I was like, oh, it's going to be $500 for the base system, isn't it? And it wasn't, so I was happy for that. So moving right along with Sticker Shock, we got Mario Kart World at $80. Doug Bowser, president of Nintendo of America. Actually, before I talk about that, because he did talk about the variable price structure for games, which I like that idea in theory. We'll touch on that in a second, but I just want to touch on some comments that kind of got out of hand, where basically people were paraphrasing what he said about the Switch 2 and if you can't afford the $400 and $450 price tag. So, you got headlines like this from The Gamer. Nintendo president channels Xbox One's disastrous launch messaging while defending Switch 2 price. If you can't buy the afford the Switch 2, just buy the original. It's not exactly what Doug Bowser said. They actually have the quote in here, but what's a good actual quote when you can paraphrase and create a salacious clickbait title? This is what Doug Bowser said, and I will admit it's a little out of touch. But it's not as bad as a lot of the headlines people have been using. We recognize there are some people that may not be able to afford the Switch 2's price point. That's why we wanted to make the other Switch platforms available. So a little out of touch, but because of the backwards compatibility, your Switch One games will be able to play on Switch Two, and it's kind of like they're actually using the same digital ecosystem for a change. It's like if you can't afford the Switch 2 right now, but you want to play some of those Switch 1 games, I mean, you can buy the Switch 1, and I'm sure there's probably going to be a price reduction coming up, or you can probably get a used one for less expensive. Again, out of touch, but not the salacious kind of Xbox One disastrous quotes we got from the Xbox One launch. And also, if you can't afford the Xbox One, just play the Xbox 360. That's not what killed the Xbox One. What killed the Xbox One was DRM, always online, packing in the Kinect with it, not being able to the original message of you can't share your games, you can't sell your used games kind of thing. That's what hurt the Xbox One, not the if you can't afford it thing. And again, Xbox didn't even say that. People just like these clickbait headlines. So not really defending Doug Bowser's comments, but at the same time, they're not as salacious and out of touch as people want to make it seem. Again, not really in touch, but it's not as terrible as all these headline grabbings. He's not calling you poor. He's just recognizing the fact that this is what it's priced at, and not everybody can afford it. But we do have the Switch Lite, Switch One OLED, the Switch One, kind of thing like that. So it's just one of those things. I would have phrased it differently. I wouldn't have said it like that. Like if I was president of Nintendo of America and asked about the price point, I would basically just explain it's like the margins are thin here. I mean, if everything's to be believed from like Digital Foundry and things like that, it's like we've priced this as affordable as we can, given costs to manufacture and shipping and things like that. That's how I would have explained it, and I would have been like, it does think that not all of our fans will be able to afford this on launch. But we're working on incentives. Maybe Nintendo can do a trade-in program for the Switch One. You trade in your Switch One to Nintendo after the initial pre-orders, and you can buy one yourself at a discounted price with the trade-in, or something of that nature. I wouldn't have said but there's a Switch One you can buy. No shit. And odds are the people who really want to Switch 2 probably already have a Switch One, so that doesn't help them. So again, not the most out of touch thing he could have said, but definitely was not in touch, kind of thing like that. So moving on, again, Mario Kart World, $80. That's a lot for a game. Nintendo, as far as a regular release, in the last few generations has cracked the $80 mark. A lot of people are like, whoa, at that price, and so am I. And this might be part of Nintendo's plan, but if I can get it, I plan on getting the bundle now, because I was kind of watching the Mario Kart review. I was like, that's actually really cool. But Mario Kart's one of those games, when I first get it, I play it a lot, and then I kind of don't play it that much afterwards. So I was thinking when that came out, when I saw it, I was like, that's actually really cool. I like the Forza feel of it. You drive, which driving to the other places and being able to go off-road, that will probably keep me playing Mario Kart a lot more, because I still play Forza Horizon 5 a ton. I go back to it all the time to play if I just want expensive car driving fix. So the open world aspect of Mario Kart World will get me going back more than the last Mario Kart. So, but I was thinking when it was going, I was like, I'll pick that up probably a Christmas sale. Maybe not this year, because probably won't be on sale this year, but maybe next Christmas, next Black Friday, they'll have it marked down to $40, and I'll pick it up for that, thinking that it was going to be $50 or $60 at launch. And then later on, we see the price of it. I was like, oh, I'll buy that bundle then and just get it for the $50 then, instead of waiting to get it for $50. So I think That's part of Nintendo's plan, pricing it so high, is trying to get people to buy the bundle, because you only get a digital game there, so it doesn't cost them anything to manufacture, and kind of a double dip there. So worked on me. I'm gonna buy the bundle just so I have that game at launch and Switch 2 game to play. But that goes into Doug Bowser talking about variable pricing, how Nintendo's going to price games based on what they feel the value's at. And if you look at it, their Switch 2 basically tech feature game, that's only going to be $10. That should be a pack in, but they're only charging $10 for it because they value it at $10. And then they're going to price obviously between $10 and $80. It looks like now. I feel like we haven't seen everything that Mario Kart has to offer, and there is going to be that direct that focuses completely on Mario Kart World. And I mean, value for dollar is, again, a subjective thing. I get called cheap by my family all the time because I don't want to spend an amount of money on something, and I go, I don't value it at that. Like, they're charging $20 for it, but really you're only getting about $10 in value, so I'm not going to pay $20 for X item or things like that. And my family calls me cheap all the time for it, but it's my perceived value of something, just with my experience in working in retail, just life experience, purchasing things, selling things, definitely perceived value. So will Mario Kart World be a perceived value of $80? That's yet to be seen, but I think there's going to be a lot more to the game than what we've seen just from the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. And again, it's user is going to be determined, like the value, like if they feel it's worth $80 or not. I do think this is going to be worth more than like a $60 game. I mean, maybe a lot of people are like, well, I'd pay $70 for it, which is kind of the going rate of games nowadays. So it's going to be one of those things we're gonna have to wait and see on. I think it's definitely going to be a valuable game as far as what you get from it. I don't know if you're going to get $8 worth of value for it, but I do feel if you buy the bundle, the Wii bundle, you're going to get at least $50 worth of value out of that game. So again, we just kind of got to wait and see on that. But I do think there's going to be more to it than what we've seen. And I think after that Direct, I think you're going to see a lot of people going like, okay, I kind of understand the $8 price tag. Probably all those people are going to be like, I don't want to pay $8 for it. But so, and just for record's sake, I will never defend a price increase. I still hate that during the 360 PS3 era, we went from $49.99 for games to $59.99 for games. I'm still bitter about that. And that was 17 years ago or something to that effect, 18 years ago. So I'm still not over that jump from $49.99 to $59.99. So I won't be defending this jump to $79.99 for sure. So I don't want you to think that I'm doing that I'm making an excuse for $1 billion company to raise the price on the game. Now, I hate that it's $80, but I do think Nintendo charging $80 for a game is going to be more than just straight up like price increase and greed. I think this game is going to be the most Mario Kart we've ever Mario Karted ever. So I think there is going to be a higher perceived value than your average video game. But whether or not that value is $80 will yet to be seen. We're going to find out more on the 17th, though. And then moving right along to games not overpriced, Donkey Kong Bonanza was announced. That's going to be your typical $69.99. God, I don't even like saying that. Let's go back to $59.99. The $49.99 to $59.99 hurts less when we talk about $59.99 to $69.99. That game looks cool. Awesome. A lot of destructible things. I probably won't get it right at launch. It's probably going to be one of those things I'm going to pre-order the bundle and I'll have Mario Kart. I'll play a little bit of Mario Kart. I'll definitely be playing some more enhanced versions of my Zelda games and things like that because I know those are, and I'm going to talk about this more when I get to it, those will be included in my online expansion, so I'll get that stuff done. So I don't want to have too many games for the Switch 2 at launch just because then it's like, oh, what do I play? It's kind of like that when you're scrolling through Netflix. You're like, so many things to choose from, and you spend 2 hours scrolling through stuff just to watch the same old thing. So I don't have too many games at launch. I think I'm gonna get Mario Kart, play a lot of Mario Kart, and then probably go grab DK Bonanza after that. But it does look cool, all the destructible environments. I don't know if I'm sold on Donkey Kong's redesign though. I kind of like the classic Donkey Kong Country look for DK. Maybe I'll get used to it the more I see it, and maybe in motion playing, I'm like, oh yeah, I like this version better. Kind of like Toon Link from Wind Waker. Hated that when it got shown. Absolutely hated that look, but I really like it now. I've grown to like it, and as you know, GameCube has aged, and that generation has aged. That cell shading look for Link and the Wind Waker style, that just it keeps going. It keeps looking good. So there's something to be said for that. So maybe this Donkey Kong redesign, and it's not the biggest redesign in the world. Like it's not going from Ocarina of Time to Wind Waker, Toon Link. Jarring. It's just slightly goofier in a sense. So I'll probably get used to it a lot quicker than I got used to Toon Link. So, but the game looks really cool. Not much shown on. It's probably going to be like a collectathon, like your 3D platformers are. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what kind of story we get out of it. I know we're not going to get like a ton of story. It's a Donkey Kong game, but I'm definitely interested to see what the whole thing is, since he looks like he's like a mine worker in this. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm interested to see who makes it, 'cause I don't think that was shown, like what studio actually made this Donkey Kong game. So is it going to be Retro Studios, who've been doing the Donkey Kong Country game since Rare got bought by Microsoft? That'll be interesting to see. And then another launch title coming out is Metroid Prime 4, which is not technically a launch title. It will have enhanced versions, but it's still a Switch 1 game. I will definitely be getting that upon release. So technically not a Switch 2 launch title. I'm not sure which I might just get the Switch version, because I think the enhanced stuff comes with the online expansion as well. So again, much like Zelda, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. I'll have those features. Plus, God, do I hate the the look of the Switch 2 boxes, the big red box. And red's my favorite color, but God, those boxes, like where you get the big red tag at the top, kind of cuts it off. I mean, at least with PlayStation 4 doing that and Xbox Series doing that, it's blue and green, so like a neon green, so it's like it's not as jarring. But that big red border right there, that is some jarring shit. I really like the Switch boxes where it's just all the artwork and just a little Switch logo at the top. Kind of wish they were doing that, but no, we got that big red thing. So just because of that, that look of the box, I'll probably just stick with the Switch 1 version and just have the red tab on the outside, and then just the regular Switch artwork there. Plus, I won't get all that key information down at the bottom of the Switch 2 box, so that way you get the enhanced edition. But like more towards release, if there's difference between the Switch 2 enhanced version and the Switch 1 version, might stem my purchase, but I'll take a look at it either way. But yeah, it's gonna look impressive. It's got dragon controls, as Lawrence Sontag from Inside Games pointed out, where you can do the mouse with the right, aim with the thumbstick with the left, or no, move with the thumbstick with the left, aim with the mouse with the right. I'm gonna give that a try. I'm left-handed, so kind of doing the mouse aiming with the right does not always work for me, kind of thing. It's kind of been my barrier to getting into PC gaming, but I'm sure other lefties do it, so I can figure it out. So I'm gonna give it a try, play it like that, and when I'm doing handheld mode and things like that, I'm definitely gonna try different play styles way. So the mouse and thumbstick option is really cool. I'm sure a lot of people are excited about that, especially more precise aiming, things like that. But what I'm excited for is the performance mode. You can get 4K 60 frames per second on the Switch 2, or 1080 120 frames per second if you want to do performance mode versus graphics mode. So that's phenomenal. Like, just I know this is not the only game that's going to have that kind of feature, but the fact that we're going to be able to play in 1080 60 frames per second, I'm sorry, 4K 60 frames per second, and then 1080 at 120 frames per second, that is fantastic, especially if you're playing in handheld mode. 4K and 1080, not going to matter that much. It will, you'll see a bit of a difference on your TV or your monitor, depending on how you play your Switch 2. But hell, man, I am so excited for that performance. Just 60 frames or 120 frames per second, depending on what fidelity you want. Plus, it's got does it have ray tracing? Maybe not. I don't remember. I'm not gonna comment on that. But it does have HDR. So it's gonna just look impressive. Like the side by side they showed of Mario Kart with the HDR and non HDR is phenomenal. And it's just one of those things that I'm super excited about, just that added performance, because unlike a lot of people, I don't bitch about like the Switch's graphics because of the way Nintendo does their games, because it's a Nintendo machine for me basically. Though the Switch 2 might be my console of choice going forward, depending on the third party releases versus Xbox and PlayStation. So if the games are almost as good, like looking at like Cyberpunk 2077, comparing that to the Xbox One and PlayStation versions, not a big difference there, because I've talked about this and many other people talk about the diminishing returns of graphics from last generation to this generation. The Xbox One and PS4 coming to the Series X and PS5. Yes, you do have better performance and things like that, but the graphics haven't been that big of a jump. So people bitching about PS4 style graphics for the Nintendo Switch 2, yeah, that's not that big of a downgrade from what we're currently at now. And if I can play these games at 120 frames per second or 60 frames per second consistently, yeah, I'm good with that. And if these third-party games, and I think a lot of third-party with this jump in graphics for the Switch and fidelity, I think a lot of third-party games are going to make sure their games run well on the Switch. And we're getting Street Fighter. I'm going to cover more of the games, but we're getting games like Street Fighter 6 and Cyberpunk and Final Fantasy 7 Remix, like current gen games running on the Switch 2 and running well. I think we're going to see more and more third parties come to the Switch, and it might. I don't know. Nintendo's weird with their generations as far as like what's what. Is the Switch? The Switch 1 came out at the tail end of the PS4 Xbox One generation, so is it that generation? Or is it in the generation with the PS5, Xbox Series X? I don't freaking know. But I think with the Switch 2, I think you're going to see a lot of those third-party games coming to the Switch 2. And because you can play it in handheld mode and not remotely like you can with your phone on the Xbox or the PlayStation, or if you have a PS Portal, since you can, play remotely. Oh, well, it's not remotely. You just go with your games because you have your system in your hand. I think that's going to be huge for Nintendo, and for me, for third-party games I have to purchase that aren't going to be on Game Pass. I think I might get them on the Switch too. It might be one of those things. So I mean, that's just kind of my thought process with the Nintendo Switch 2 going for third-party. But let's get back on track and let's talk Kirby Air Riders, the newest game announced for the Kirby series. I think a lot of people were thinking this might have been a Smash Brothers game or maybe just a new Kirby game. I definitely thought it was a Kirby game. Smash Brothers didn't even peak. I think we'll be getting some sort of enhanced version of the current Smash Brothers before we get another Smash Brothers game. I don't think Masahiro Sakurai really wants to make another one anytime soon. And I think there's just got to be something like Smash Brothers. I think there really needs to be a real reason to make that game, because you got to think like this past Smash Bros. Ultimate is more like an enhanced version of the Wii U version, so they didn't have a real reason to make a brand new one for the Switch. So why make one for the Switch 2 if you don't have a reason where you can probably just enhance the current version to run smoother, better graphics, like 4K instead of just 1080. On the TV, things like that. So I wasn't I know a lot of people got their hopes up. I was like, nah, it's not going to be a new one. I thought it was going to be like a Kirby game. It was like Air Riders. And I never played Kirby Air Ride on the GameCube when it originally came out. I didn't actually play it until I ordered my Spiced Orange GameCube, and I got a bundle. I got several games with it. And I got Kirby Air Rides. And I don't like that game. It's a racing game. It's really quick, and maybe it's because I have the Japanese version and I don't like the controls. I can't understand the controls. So maybe if it comes to the Switch 2, the original version on the GameCube games, We'll talk about that too in more detail, maybe with like English explanations, and I can figure out how to play the game. I might like it more, but as of now, I don't like that game. So an announced sequel, not super excited for on my part. It looks cool. I mean, the graphics are going to look cool on the Switch too, but yeah, I was never a fan of the original game, so not hyped for that one. But a game I am hyped for, Hyrule Warriors: The Imprisoning Wars. A lot of people lately have been shitting on the Hyrule Warriors series. I like it. I like the original one for the Wii U. Did I end up getting it? Yeah, I did not get it for this. I got the sequel for the Switch. I didn't get like the all enhanced version for the Switch. I played it, beat it, loved it. And then the new one that kind of was like the Tears for the Kingdom, not Tears for the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild one, but like a prequel to Breath of the Wild. I enjoyed that. I have not beaten it yet. I think I'm like 90% through on that. Started dying a little bit towards the end, and then a new game came out, so I just haven't gone back to it. But I enjoy it, and I did kind of like the backstory that it gave. But then because I hadn't beaten it yet, it got spoiled for me that it's like an alternate version of the past for Breath of the Wild. I was actually like very disappointed to hear that, like, 'cause I wanted to see it up into like Breath of the Wild, so that also kind of discouraged me from going back and finishing it. So hopefully the Imprisoning War is like the true backstory that we just got in flashbacks from Legend of Zelda: Tears for the Kingdom. So hopefully we actually see it how it's supposed to happen and add to the lore. So I'm excited for that. Hopefully it's not some dumb alternate history kind of thing like that, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm excited to play that. I should have written down the dates for these, but I don't think it's a launch title. I'll probably get that very soon after it releases, if not day one. So super excited for that. And then maybe the biggest surprise, other than the price, of the Switch 2 Direct from Software. They are giving us a Switch 2 exclusive, which is what made it the biggest surprise for me. So far, nothing said about a timed exclusive. It just says exclusive. But Duskbloods, which is a weird name. But to me, it kind of looks like almost a spiritual successor of Bloodborne. Because at first, when they were showing it, I know a lot of people thought Castlevania. I don't know why. I don't know why you thought Konami was going to make a brand new Castlevania game. That's not like simple 2D that they can just churn out real quickly. I don't know what you people are thinking. But I was thinking that maybe Bloodborne, just because of the gothic look to everything like that. And I might take away my gamer cred. I've not played Bloodborne. So I'm not big on the Souls types games. I think I've explained this many times in videos. I don't have the time to get good at those. Just being a dad, being a baseball coach, working full time, being a husband, having 2 dogs. I have to dedicate myself to games that I can play and enjoy without dying 1,000 times. So there's that. But so I thought it was going to be like, I was like, maybe From Software has the full rights to Bloodborne, and maybe a remastered Bloodborne for the Switch 2. I was like, or maybe Bloodborne 2 is coming to the Switch 2. But no, it's Duskbloods, which again, I've seen this from a lot of people who love Bloodborne. It seems like a multiplayer spiritual successor to Bloodborne. And I know a lot of people want like a Bloodborne remake or a remaster or just a Bloodborne 2. And what Duskbloods tells me is that Sony is the one holding up Bloodborne 2 or a Bloodborne remaster remake from happening. Because looking at this world of Duskbloods from what we saw from the trailer, it seems like From Software really wants to return to this like steampunk, gothic, industrialized setting that was in Bloodborne. And Sony's just like, no, we're not going to fund it. Where Nintendo stepped up and was like, hey, obviously Sony owns partial rights or something to Bloodborne. But hey, we'll fund a game. And From Software is like, all right, we'll do it. And I think because Nintendo's really pushing the chat feature, the video feature, and a lot of the social aspects of the Switch 2, it was probably a Nintendo call to say, hey, can we throw a multiplayer function in this, like a co-op kind of thing in there, PvP, PvE kind of thing like that. And From Software is like, yeah, we're doing that for Elden Ring, so we'll do it here too. And so I think that's how Duskbloods came to be. It's a really cool looking game. Probably something I will pass on. Well, maybe not. Depends if a buddy of mine gets it and they're good at these type of games, and I will just tag along for the lore and the story. I might get it. So it remains to be seen. Or maybe because it's a Nintendo published, well, not published, but Nintendo exclusive. Maybe Nintendo's like, hey, let's dial back that difficulty a bit. Again, maybe I'll hop on. We'll have to wait and see. But I know a lot of people are excited whenever From Software has a new game coming out, especially a new IP. See Elden Rings, for example. So it'll be interesting to see if this like is a system sell. Like if it gets some PlayStation loyalists who love From Software to be like, I really want to play this new game. So this might sell a few units, I think, to some people who were maybe on the fence for the Switch 2. And that's kind of like the big games announced. I would say that are new games. I mean, I'm going to go over some of the third-party releases in a minute, but that's like the big brand new games that we've never played before coming out for the Switch 2 that were announced during the Direct. Let's talk about some of the specs, and I'm not going to go into super detail about the specs, but like I was talking about before, 1080, 120 frames per second is awesome. 4K 60 frames per second is awesome. I know you PC Master Race folks are going to be like, well, I can do 8K at 390 frames per second. It's like, great, awesome for you. You can't tell the difference. 60 frames per second, like just from what I've read, is kind of the max. Like 120 looks smoother as well, but it's like you get up there and your eyes can't really tell the difference with the frame rates. So I'm perfectly happy with 1080, 120, and 4K 60. I don't need any more than that. If you do, good for you. But yeah, for me, that is perfectly fine for my old man eyes at 42. And then, we've got the mouse feature, which was kind of like one of those worst kept secret kind of things like that. That's looking really cool. I can't wait to see how it really goes about. I know Nintendo's got their own game coming out, Drag and Drive, that wheelchair basketball game. That's kind of a unique game to show how to use the mouse and that feature. Probably not a game for me though, but if there's a demo, I'll give it a try. Maybe I was like, oh, I really like this. I'll play it. Again, remains to be kind of seen, but the mouse feature I think is going to be really cool. I think it's going to open the floodgates for first-person shooters coming to the Switch 2. I think a lot of third-party first-person shooters are like, oh, we can offer these kind of controls and really get people excited about it. So look for, I think, more first-person shooters, maybe even like some Switch 2 exclusive first-person shooters coming to the system. Just to use that mouse feature, and maybe we'll get a Mario Paint too, or maybe like the mouse feature will get us Mario Paint on Switch Online, but also Mario Wario, which was a Japanese exclusive for the Famicom, which I was looking for in Japan and I could not find that game. I found the game, but I don't have the mouse or anything like that, so I was kind of looking for a complete set, but I could not find a mouse anywhere. And I know those aren't super expensive in Japan. In fact, I think you can get third-party ones now, pretty inexpensive. But I wanted to try to find an in-box complete set, and I just could not find that. But yeah, so maybe we'll get like Wario Mario for the Nintendo Switch 2 or the Nintendo Switch Online, and that's the only mouse games I can think of for the Super Nintendo. So that might be the only thing we get for Switch Online, but it kind of opens the door for a lot of different types of games to use that mouse feature. And I can't wait to see what Nintendo comes up with, because generally when they have kind of a gimmick like that, they'll use it in the ways we expect them to use it, but then they'll do something like Labo or 1-2-Switch where you kind of use that HD Rumble to play a bunch of mini games that you wouldn't think to do with a video game system, kind of thing like that. And again, like Labo. So it will be interesting to see how Nintendo uses this mouse feature, because the wheelchair basketball game was one I didn't see coming. So I think more is on the way for the Nintendo Switch with these kind of with the mouse feature and things like that. And kind of moving on with those features, it's like we've got video chat now for the Nintendo Switch, along with basically Discord. It's a big step for Nintendo. I mean, they're still way back in the past when it comes to these online features. I mean, that's kind of cool, and it's one of those things. I think I talked in my Walk and Talk series about that. It's probably not something I'm going to really be into right away, but Sean's going off to college in a year and a half, So maybe then, if he's got his own Switch too, and we're playing games online, might be something like cool to have just to like keep in touch. Different, a different way to keep in touch and still hang out, kind of thing like that. So, I mean, I think that's something cooler for younger people. God, I'm old. Or just people who play more online multiplayer games, which I don't do a lot of. But I know with the Switch 2 coming out, I've got several friends who want to get it. And, Mario Kart is going to be there. So it's kind of one of those things. Maybe I'll be an early adopter at it. I do like the idea of it. I do think it's kind of cool. But it's one of those things like I don't think I'm gonna get that camera right away. Like I'll already have a Switch Online expansion, so I mean I'll have the features ready to go whenever I want to do it. And I do like how Nintendo's giving you basically almost a full year. Cause I think March 2026, you can use it for free without Switch Online expansion, maybe even without Switch Online. So that's really cool. Nintendo get you hooked with that free sample, and then they want to charge you for it. But at $50 a year, if they don't raise the price of Switch Online expansion, especially with the addition of GameCube games, pretty great value there. And then you can use the chat feature and everything that comes with it. So overall, I think it's cool, but something I don't know if I'm gonna pay $50 for a camera right off the bat, but I'll probably get one eventually. I was kind of cool to see the Hori Piranha Plant camera, but that's only gonna be at 480, where 1080 for the Nintendo version. So that stinks. But, maybe when I'm ready to buy the camera, the Hori, they might upgrade the Hori to 1080 because maybe it's just 480 to not cut into the Nintendo sales first. If you want this cool design, you can get it. But if you want 1080, you got to go with Nintendo's brand. So maybe like Hori will get to do a 1080 like a year from now or something like that. But either way, I'm not going to get the camera right away. It's one of those features that I think if enough friends have a Switch 2 and we're playing multiplayer games together, Mario Kart, maybe even Mario Party, then yeah, I might pick it up. Or maybe there's a game that we don't even know of yet that will be so cool to play with this feature that I'll get it. But I mean, time will only tell on that one. I kind of alluded to it with that last point, but Nintendo Switch Online expansion is getting GameCube games finally. Again, another worst kept secret about the Switch 2. It's kind of something we all assumed. And I mean, Wind Waker's coming to the Switch now. We all were expecting that. We kind of expected an HD remake or remaster or something like that. But we're getting the original GameCube version there, which is cool because I haven't played that game in forever, and I was kind of holding off playing my GameCube version that I have because I want it on a modern system. Because you're still playing the same version, but I can just put my system to sleep without saving and having to go back and find something or reload something. So that's also a plus. Plus you'll plus. Added bonus is you'll get the save points that you get with the Switch Online stuff. So you're gonna have those like modern features with that, which is what I was waiting for, with an HD remaster coming to the Switch. So you're still gonna get that. The only downside is because it's the GameCube version and not the Wii U version, you gotta collect all the tiny pieces of the Triforce, where there were fewer pieces to collect in the Wii U version. So I think that's like the only downside to that, because like I said, with that cell shading art style, even though it's a 480 system with the GameCube, it still looks good and it's going to translate well because I've used my up converter on my GameCube to at least check out the game, not really play it, because again I was waiting for that remake or remaster to come out. So it's still going to look really good on the Switch, especially in handheld mode. It's going to look chef's kiss. So that's awesome. But we also have Soul Calibur 2, F-Zero X, and this wasn't in the Switch thing, but I saw it. I saw people talking about it. Fire Emblem Path of Radiance is going to be there. I mean, I assume eventually all first-party GameCube games are going to be there, and I'll be interested to see what third-party games. Excuse me. It will be interesting to see what third-party games come to Switch Online for that, because they do have a healthy amount of third-party games in the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and N64 versions. So I think that will kind of come down to what companies will put a collection or a remaster on, because we don't really have any Mega Man games, because Capcom is, they're re-releasing those collections. Same with Street Fighter and other games like that. So I think it will come down to, it's really easy to emulate the Super Nintendo and Nintendo games. Not so easy to emulate the GameCube games for a remaster collection. Like, if that's worth something someone will pay. So I think we'll see more third-party GameCube games coming to Switch Online. And then, kind of last but not least, the games. I mean, only a system is only as good as the games that it has for it, whether it be exclusive or third-party games. You're gonna want games to play. So Switch One, there's gonna be a few Switch One games that are getting some enhancements. Both Zelda games, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. If you have Switch Online expansion, which especially with GameCube, $50 a year, I would do it. Like, that just seems like the smart move. To just have access to all those retro games just to play. And take it from a guy who collects retro games and has a stupid amount of N64 games. And not a stupid amount, but a decent amount of GameCube games. I think it's worth it just to play them for a little bit. Like, just to kind of go back and play old favorites. And then also just tool around with games that you always wanted but didn't get a chance to play, kind of thing like that. So again, like both Zelda games, the enhancements come free if you have the online expansion. So I'll definitely, and I was going to say I'd definitely be picking that up, but also it'll give you an extra game save slot. So you can start a brand new campaign if you want to using the enhancements, which I might do. And when I say might do, it's going to wait till I get through my backlog before I start those games again. But at the very least, I'm going to try out both Zelda games that way. Kirby and the Forgotten Lands is getting a whole new chapter. So I don't know if they made it clear whether or not that is going to be free if you have the online expansion, or if that's one of the ones you will have to pay for. But that is also getting an online expansion or an expansion. Mario Party Jamboree, that one you do have to pay for. That one's going to involve the camera and some new games and things like that. That one is not free with the online expansion. You'll have to pay for that. I know the Zelda games are $10 for the expansion. So maybe it's $10 also. Maybe it's a little bit more because there's a lot more features there. It's just not a graphical and frame rate expansion. And then Pokemon Legends will now probably look like a game from 10 years ago and not 20 years ago with its enhancements. And that one I also believe is online expansion as well for free. And I believe the same is for Metroid Prime 4. If you have online expansion, you can upgrade it to the Switch 2 version at no extra cost. So those are the announced enhanced games, which I'm sure many, many more are coming as well. I think both Zelda top-down experiences, Echoes of Wisdom and Link's Awakening, I believe those are getting enhancements as well. Don't quote me on that, though. I'm not 100% sure. I was reading somewhere where they were. So I'm sure a lot of first-party Nintendo games, especially bestsellers, are going to get some sort of enhancement, whether it's just graphical or frame rate. I'm sure those are coming. And then some of the big games announced. I already talked about Dragon Drive for the Nintendo Switch 2. The Nintendo Switch 2 Tour, which I talked about. Cyberpunk. That's going to be on a 64 gigabyte cart. That's going to be coming all on cart. It looks good. It was a test build, so it's not the full build yet, but that was running at 41 frames per second, I believe. And I don't even think that's the final build, so that one might get up to 60 frames per second. We'll have to wait and see. Street Fighter 6, Bravely Default, which cracked me up. For a split second, because I love Final Fantasy 9, for a split second, I thought that was Garnet. But when they started to clothe her and everything like that, the character, I was like, it literally only took me 1 second, one pan of the camera. I was like, that's not Final Fantasy 9. That's not happening now. Because also I think Final Fantasy 9, if we get a 2.5D enhancement, kind of like an HD version, I think we're going to get better cutscenes than what Bravely Default looked like. So I wasn't one of those people who got overly excited, just for that brief second, 9, and then kind of panned. I was like, that's not 9. And it ended up being, and I couldn't remember Bravely Default's name, but I was like, oh, I know what this is, and couldn't think of the name. But yeah, I was, for a split second, kind of excited, but then I kind of realized real quick it was not 9. We're getting Hades 2. That's going to be console Switch exclusive, kind of like the first one was. So that'll be out on the Switch 2 for a little bit, and then It will probably make its way to PlayStation, Xbox as well. The EA Sports games, FIFA, and not FIFA, FC and Madden are coming. WWE 2K and NBA 2K games are coming. Split Fiction, Final Fantasy VII Remake. If I didn't already beat that game and halfway through Rebirth, probably would get it for the Switch 2 to play, but I've already beat. I don't see myself. Hogwarts Legacy is coming. Borderlands 4, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4. That would be a game I would be getting for my Switch if it wasn't Game Pass. So Game Pass, I'll be playing it there. The Elden Ring. Still haven't played Elden Ring yet. Maybe on the Switch I'll do it because then I can kind of get good playing on my couch downstairs while hanging out with the family, taking it on road trips on the train, things like that. So maybe that's when I dip my toe into Elden Ring. Yakuza 0, the Hitman series, Project 007 from the makers of Hitman, and of course many more games coming. Of course, Project 007 was just a teaser, but if you're gonna officially announce it, since James Bond games, GoldenEye is the standard, whether or not you think it's the best James Bond game. Whenever anybody thinks of James Bond video games, the first thing they think of is GoldenEye for the N64. So having the launch teaser for Project 007 be at the Switch 2 Direct, I think was pretty smart on their part. So those are some of the games we're getting. Not all are launch titles, but I think most are launch titles are within that launch window. So plenty of games coming out for the Switch 2, be it first-party system games, first-party enhanced games, or just third-party games coming. So pretty exciting. I haven't gotten the new WWE game yet. I got last year's for my Xbox. Maybe if I decide to get this year's, maybe I get it on the Switch so I can play it on the go, things like that. NBA 2K, not going to get. Madden, I always just play the previous years on EA Play on Xbox Game Pass, so that's going to be one probably not going to get. Cyberpunk, I might, because I got Cyberpunk when it came out, nonstop played, beat it, but I've not gotten Liberty City. Is it Liberty City? No, Liberty City is Grand Theft Auto. Whatever the expansion is, I haven't gotten that yet. So depending on the price for Cyberpunk, maybe I just buy the Switch one and I just kind of play through the game again, choosing different paths, because I thought about doing that before they even announced the DLC. Thought about starting a new game and playing it through it differently. So maybe I do that on the Switch, and you get the expansion there. Street Fighter 6, I had it for my Xbox. I got rid of it. Fighting games just don't hold my attention anymore. But if I were to rebuy it, maybe I get the Switch version because it has all the DLC, everything like that. The Switch 2 tour, no, not for $10. Sorry, not gonna give me with that one. I don't need a tour. I'll figure that shit out on my own. Bravely Default, never been a big fan of that series. I know it's like Final Fantasy, but I just never got into that series. And as far as RPGs goes, old school RPGs, I'm literally just playing either old ones that I missed back in the day and just catching up on, or remakes of some of my favorites. I don't really want to dip into anything new there. Hades 2, that's a possibility. I really love Hades 1. I had a blast playing that. So I might pick up Hades 2. Like I said, the EA Sports games, no. Tony Hawk Pro Skater, if it wasn't free on Game Pass, I would get it probably for the Switch, but free on Game Pass, so I'm going to stick with not having to pay money for it. Borderlands 4, I did not like Borderlands 3. The gameplay was solid. It played like Borderlands 2, but the story just kind of bored me and didn't keep me engaged. Hogwarts, probably not. So those are just kind of my thoughts on the games coming out. Well, going on the first-party games, like I said, I'm going to get the Mario Kart bundle, so I'll have Mario Kart. Donkey Kong Bonanza, probably not going to get right away, but I will get that eventually. Metroid Prime 4, that's probably a day one purchase. Kirby Air Riders, I'm going to have to play a demo before I even consider buying that game because I don't like the original that well. Hyrule Warriors, The Imprisoning War, probably going to get. Duskbloods, I might just pick that up just to help boost sales. Give it a try, but I do want to see more third-party exclusives for the Switch. And it's not that I'm big on exclusives, the Switch has to have these exclusives, because they're going to have the Nintendo games. But I want to see third parties kind of come to the Switch first and not Sony. Just because there's more innovative things they can do with the Switch as opposed to just the PlayStation. So I want to see that more. I want to see, Nintendo kind of take over as, hey, this is where we want to go first, and then we'll port games over to the PlayStation, port games over to the Xbox, just to again see that innovation. Because if they're just porting games from the PlayStation or Xbox over to the Switch, the uniqueness of the Switch 2 will be like an afterthought and half-baked functions that go into the game. But if they start it on the Switch, then they're really going to think about that Switch hardware and the mouse functions and the portability and just various other things that are unique to the Switch 2 that you don't get from the PlayStation and the Xbox. They'll think more about that and put more care into those features, as opposed to where we've seen it with like the Wii, we saw it with the Wii U, we've seen it with the Switch. When it starts on another system and then gets ported over, some of the uniqueness of those systems is it's an afterthought or too gimmicky. It's not really thought or baked into the architect of the game, and that's what I kind of want to see from it. Kind of like a lot of DS games. When games were made for the DS, like they really thought about the DS and the 3DS features and bake that into the game DNA of the game. That's what I want to see from some of these third parties. So it will be really cool to see how Duskbloods does, because I think if it sells well, you'll see more third parties thinking Nintendo first as opposed to Sony or Microsoft, and then we could get some really cool, unique game features for some third-party games that will eventually be ported to the other systems, kind of thing like that. So those are just kind of my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. I know it's coming late, but I was in Japan and I didn't want to. I knew I was gonna have to like write down my thoughts. I knew it was gonna be a longer video, and given how exhausted I would be when I'd be back at the Airbnb from a day of game hunting, sightseeing, and things like that, I didn't want to do a video like that there, because the brain fog would have just been hellacious. And plus, with things ever changing while I was in Japan, I didn't really want to do a video until we had some more solid concrete things. Like right now, we don't even have a pre-order date. Now, the Nintendo one, which has always been the same date of May the 8th, I believe, is when Nintendo will let you know if you signed up to pre-order Switch 2 from them. That's the day they'll let you know, and you can pre-order. As far as major retailers in the U.S., again, I kind of want to buy one from Best Buy so I can just pick it up at midnight. That has not been announced as of recording. Hopefully, being it a Monday when this goes live, we will get some sort of date from Nintendo, and hopefully no price increase. With the 90-day stay on tariffs, with the exception of China, there's been reports of Nintendo just trying to ship over as many Switch 2s as they can from Vietnam, and they already got a bunch here in the States. So hopefully they get enough here to where, at the very least, that first couple batches of pre-orders and then in-store units will be at the $450, $500 price mark of core system, and then system with Mario Kart added in. Hopefully those will, at least through Christmas, be at that price, depending on what the tariff situation is. I mean, just hopefully the tariff situation gets resolved and all these new tariffs just go to the wayside and none of us have to worry about them. But I mean, we'll see. That's a topic for another video, talking all about tariffs and things like that. But yeah, so hopefully we get an announcement soon. And again, Canada, I'm so sorry that yours got delayed as well. And the prices stay the same, and we can all pre-order, and then June 5th, it'll be like Christmas Day. It's Christmas in June. We're like halfway to Christmas at that point. We all get to go to our retailer, it gets shipped to us, and we have our Switch 2 to play with. Fingers crossed. So let me know what you think of the Switch 2 Direct and everything that's been announced so far in the comments below. If I were to give it a grade, I would say I would give it an A, only because I wasn't disappointed by anything about the Switch 2. It was all kind of expected. The price was, again, within a price point I was comfortable with. I would have really loved it to have been the $399, but unfortunately that wasn't it. And then we got a bunch of games announced for it that I didn't expect. Like, I didn't expect that many games to be announced for it. I didn't expect the 1080, 120 frames per second, or 4K at 60 frames per second. Wasn't expecting any of that. The video chat was a surprise. And, Duskbloods, the Donkey Kong game, which we didn't see coming. Cyberpunk, Street Fighter 6, a lot of these high-end PS5 Series X games coming to the Switch too. So a lot of surprises there for me. The enhancements to some Switch One games. So that's why I give it an A, because it actually exceeded my expectations with a lot of things that I'm excited for. I think if a lot of people like don't worry about the price of the system, like if you take the price out of the system, because again, it's within what I'm comfortable paying, which might not be what you're comfortable paying, and I'm not going to discount that. But I think if you take the price of Mario Kart out and the price of the system, I think most people would give this an A. I think those two prices probably make a lot of people give it a B, maybe even some C. But I can't imagine you going any lower than that if you are a Nintendo fan. If you were thinking about getting a Switch 2, I can't imagine the Direct changing your mind against getting one. I could see if you were like on the fence, with the exception of the price of the system, which again, it's right around what a lot of people were thinking anyways. I think it might have pushed some people over the fence to get it. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching the video, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care now. Bye.